Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my 2-year update for pan in every palette. I've been at this game for 2 years trying to get some use out of more of my palettes, even if it means just hitting one pan in one shadow or one blush or whatever. And I've been having a ton of fun. This project has definitely allowed me to explore some palettes that would have been untouched otherwise. It's hard to find the time to incorporate these palettes into my everyday routine, but I do feel very strongly like any use I get out of these palettes during the month is good. So my only expectation is that I use them one time during the month, and if I do that, I'm very happy with that, because otherwise they wouldn't be getting used. You guys know how it is. This is a collab. This project was created by Lady Pans-A-Lot over on Instagram, so I will have her Instagram account linked down below, as well as everybody else that's participating. If you have joined in along the way and I don't have your name down below, let me know so I could add you in and add you to the list. I am working on 4 palettes at a time in this project, and at some point I started including one of those palettes as a face palette to kind of change it up and, you know, add some diversity to this group of products that I'm working on. And prior to this update, I had hit 5 pans in 5 different palettes. So like I said, in 2 years, that's not amazing. Lady Pans-A-Lot has actually already hit a pan in every one of her palettes. So she's done with this project, which is amazing. It's goals. Congratulations, girlfriend. I have a long way to go, but I'm happy to have pan in 5 palettes, and I'm very excited to report that I have a new pan for today. Should we start with that one? Let's start with that one. The pan that I hit will be no surprise if you've been watching these updates. It is in my Makeup Revolution Sugar and Spice blush palette. I've been working on this for several months. And the pan that I've been focusing in on is this first one right here. And as you can see, I hit pan. I've used it one time since hitting pan. So I expanded the pan ever so slightly. It was just the tiniest dot actually on Thanksgiving morning when I hit pan. And I've used it one time since. I was going to use it again today, but I ended up not using it today. So I'm very excited to have hit pan on this. You guys are not going to believe how many uses it took to hit pan on this. It's my new record. This is the most uses it took. And most of these palettes, when I bring them into this project, are basically brand new or have been used maybe a handful of times, like 5 or less. This palette had never been used even once. It was brand new. So it took 110 uses to hit pan. Oh my goodness is right. Yes, 110 uses to hit pan. I cannot believe it took that many uses to hit pan. And it went by pretty quickly because I was using this a lot more consistently than like some of the eyeshadows. So it took a lot less time than like my Natasha Denona palette that had been in this project for a year, for almost 2 years before I finally hit pan. This has only been in this project for like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, but 110 uses. Holy cow. I really thought that this pan would be an easy win, and maybe compared to other blushes it is, but it took more than I thought it would to hit pan. And there were some days where I was pretty rosy cheeked. I mean, I kind of went ham on it a few times, but not necessarily intentionally. It just kind of happened. I love this shade. This is a beautiful shade. I really enjoyed working on it, but I do have a few other blushes that are in projects, and I'm looking forward to working on them now that I've hit pan on this guy. So that will be rolling out of this project and something new will be rolling in, but let's check in on the other 3 palettes that have been in this project. Next, let's talk about my Pat McGrath La Vie in Rose palette. That is the palette I'm wearing today. I have the shade I'm trying to hit pan on all over my lid. This has been in this project for 2 years now, which is really a shame because I barely even have a dip. I'm nowhere near hitting pan. I've talked about this many, many times over the last 2 years, but I've also been panning a baby pan that palette simultaneously. And although the shades are very different, they're both lavender. And so I've been trying to zero in on the baby pan that palette shadow. And as a result, this one has not been getting used nearly as much as I imagined when I put it into this project 2 years ago. There's also the Pat McGrath factor where it's almost like too fancy to use for every day, and that's silly. I own it. I should wear it every day if I want to, but there's that part of me that feels like this needs to be saved for a special occasion. And these days there's not a lot of special occasions happening in my life. It's mostly just sitting around the house and filming videos, and going to the grocery store. So you got to use it. But this is what it looks like today. I used it twice in the past month. Hopefully it's competition. My baby pen, that palette, will be out of the way soon. It's not quite out of the way, but hopefully soon it will be out of the way. And when I want to wear a purple eye, I can reach for this one every single time. But yeah, it's very different from the purple in my baby pan, that palette. The purple in my baby pan, that palette is kind of like a grayed out, bluish, grayish lavender. This is like a beautiful lavender with like a pink shift. It's very pretty, but yeah, I've used it twice. The next palette just got rolled into this project last month, and that is my ABH Subculture palette. I've been feeling the fall vibes. I've only used this palette like 3 times in the past month, I think. Maybe twice. Yeah, I think 2 or 3 times. I've only used this palette 2 or 3 times in the past month. But I gave myself the freedom for the past month to play around with it and not pick a pan to hit just yet. So today's my day to decide which pan I'm going to focus in on. Of course, regardless of which pan I choose to focus on, if I should hit pan on a different shadow first, this will roll out because the goal is just to have a pan in every palette. But I'm thinking I will be going with electric. I did an eye look this past month that used some shadows from this palette, and I loved that eye look. I sent out a call to you guys who've been using this palette to ask what was your favorite shade from this palette. What'd you hit pan on first when you were using this palette? And you guys gave me a lot of good feedback. When I first started playing with this palette, I thought Access might be my go-to, kind of that tealy dark green, but Access was very disappointing. It is way too pigmented for me. It is like a train that's off the tracks as far as I'm concerned, and I found it very difficult to work with, and I wasn't having fun with it. I think I could still use it, but I don't think that's the one I want to hit pan on. Then I started looking at Destiny and Adorn, and they're both okay. I mean, they're nice. There's nothing wrong with them, but a lot of you guys suggested I play around with Electric, New Wave, and Untamed. And although I had used New Wave and Electric before, and I liked them both, I had never really used Untamed before. And boy, is that shade gorgeous. So the look I did, and I'll include it in here at some point, used New Wave, Untamed, and Electric. And I layered Electric over Untamed, and it was beautiful. I loved it. I was also pleasantly surprised to find that New Wave played very nicely with my Colorpop Yes Please palette, which, hold on, here it is right here. My Colorpop Yes Please palette is the 4th palette in this project, or was. And even though it's a yellow and New Wave is like a yellowy orange, I have found that if I put this high up in my transition area and then put this one a little bit lower, they blend together very nicely and they both look great together. So I'm very happy to find that. So I'm guessing the 2 shades that are going to be getting the most use are Electric and New Wave, but I do think that a lot of times when I wear Electric, it will be on top of Untamed because those 2 just go together so nicely. So I'm calling Electric right now, but I think it could be Electric, Untamed, or New Wave. I also have always loved Roxy. I mean, I love peachy, pinky shades, so I haven't played with that one at all because it's fall, and maybe in the spring I'll get some more use out of that. But I was really happy with that look that I did that used those shades, so I'm guessing one of these. But I'm calling Electric for now. And of course, the last palette that I've been working on is my Colorpop Yes Please palette, and I've been focusing on the yellow shade. I do have a little dip going. I used it 5 more times in the past month. Look at that. That's a pretty good dip, huh? I mean, it's definitely a dip. It's not great, but it's definitely a dip. I was incorporating this into a look that I was doing every day, and then I started working on the pink shade from the Mary Kay single that's in a different project. And instead of making this my go-to transition shade, I started making that my go-to transition shade. And the reason is I want to finish off that Mary Kay shade. So until that happens, I might be ignoring this for a little bit longer, unfortunately, but I really want to finish that pink eyeshadow from Mary Kay before the end of the year. And I think I can do it. So that's where my focus has been going. I'm wearing the Mary Kay shadow right now as my transition shade. I've been wearing it every day. So I've been ignoring the yellow shade again, but I hope to get back to it. I hope that the pink shade and the Baby Pan palette will be gone in the next couple weeks, and then I could start playing around a little bit more. Okay, since I had pan on that Makeup Revolution palette, I need to roll in a new palette. And I was having a hard time debating on what to roll in because I really don't want to roll in another blush at this point. I have 2 blushes that I'm supposed to be working on and 2 other projects, and they've been getting ignored. So I want to get back to those blushes. I also have a couple blushes in Project 10 Uses that I should be hitting goals on and have been ignoring. So yeah, I didn't want to roll in another blush pan to hit. And I gave it some thought, and I decided to go with this guy here. Sorry, it's very, very, very reflective. This is my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Palette. I don't know what year this is from. I want to say this is from like the 2nd year. So it's pretty old. They've released several new palettes since this one came out. And I know I'm not alone, but every time they release a new palette, I want it. And then I'm like, what? You haven't used the one that you've got. That's nonsense. So I've decided to roll this in and hopefully get this out of my system, or maybe use it enough to start panning it, and then I could justify buying myself a new one. But I cannot justify buying myself another Hourglass palette or a full-size Hourglass product when I have highlighters, setting powders, bronzers, and blushes all in here, and this is not getting used. So here is what my palette currently looks like. So this right here is dim light. This is iridescent light. This is diffused light. I could be reading these wrong. I always get confused. No, that's right. Yep. This is mood exposure. This is luminous flush, and this is luminous bronze light. I don't think I'm going to be focusing in on the blushes, although I am wearing them today and they're lovely. I also am wearing this highlighter today and it's lovely. I'm wearing this bronzer today, but I think the pan I'm going to be aiming for is this one right here. And if I turn it sideways, maybe you could see that I've already flattened it out quite a bit. I had this in a project 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a long time ago, and I was trying to hit pan on this shade back then, and I didn't do that. But I really flattened it out quite a bit compared to the other ones. I don't know if you can see that at all. But I'm thinking either this one or the bronzer will be the ones I focus in on the most and try to hit pan on. I'm gonna take this month to play around and make a decision, and I will let you guys know next month. But this is the palette I'm rolling in to hit pan on. Of course, there's not a pan in this palette. There's like a baked tile, but you know what I mean. All right, guys, that is it for this update. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I do hope you consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.